severe flood warning meanwhile in the rising.
There is still more rainfall.
Peak water level swamped again.
It's actually going to rise further than anticipated.
Winter rain, a blessing and a burden. For every relieved gardener after a dry summer, there is an angler anticipating the rise and fall of a river, and for every sun worshipper, there is a foreign holiday to escape the dreary climate. Anything can happen in winter. The autumn and winter of 2019-2020 was a period of seemingly incessant heavy rain. Local rivers were rarely normal between October and March, with volumes of water maintaining a perpetual fluctuation in levels of often heavily turbid surface runoff. Once the ground was inundated, any further precipitation immediately swelled whatever watercourse the land drained into, and so it was, month after month. To the occasional angler, the option to stay away would be favourite. To the regular, lakes and perhaps the less popular canals would serve as an obvious draw. To the river angler, however, it would be too much to bear. Their presence on the bank diminished almost to zero through the 5 or 6 months of floods. Those hardy, water-resistant and perhaps slightly eccentric individuals that were to be encountered had one fish on their rain-lashed radar: Barbel. It's all very well venturing into the unknown winter world of water, but a prior knowledge of the features and reaction of swims to floodwater is almost essential. You see, when the water rises, its first effect is to lift all loose debris within that ever-rising, ever-increasing surface area, and thus throughout its swollen course, the myriad items of flotsam are drawn into the main flow, from the tiny speck of dirt adhered to bubbles in a mass of foam, to whole trees, and everything in between, including, sadly, much litter destined to be moved from urban locations the rivers flow through, and deposited in ugly ignorance in the green and previously pleasant land. Catching a river on the rise is no great challenge, but extracting life from it conversely difficult. Coupled with the debris careering downstream to become a constituent of the build-up of a natural raft is the general fact that the fishing is rarely good. In the great back catalogue that is historic angling literature, one is led to believe that especially roach are at their most ravenous in a rising turbid river, but rarely is this true in lowland, non-chalk based regions, and much of the piscatorial publisher's work is relevant to the famous chalk streams of the south. As soon as the levels peak and start to fall, however, the confounding floating masses subside to the odd stick and leaf, until a clear surface presents itself, flicking a metabolic switch in the fish's psyche labelled time to feed. Largely speaking, it is the bigger fish that have this switch, but most species can be caught that don't descend into torpor once temperatures tail off. At this time, provided the 3 hydrological rules apply of falling water, stable or rising water temperature, and tea-like but not strong coffee-like turbidity is retained, anything is possible. Now that's not to suggest this is easy. Winter fish can be packed into a tight area, such that suit their need to avoid expending energy, and often the results are nothing to sing about. The ever-perky robin, wistful in its thoughts on our chances. few lengths of worm are fired to the edge of a far bank flow, pushed across by the trailing tree branches. And a tiny feeder follows, clipped to avoid those branches. But the interest this day is avian, not Piscean, as a pair of dabchick appear under the near bank and make an escape at the sight of the unexpected. Like the heron, a more regular event in winter than one might expect. The foibles of the flow, amplified by a quiver, can fool the novice. But a bite, when it comes, is unmistakable. The fish are in no hurry to share a snack, and this reflects in the sharp bites. Often it matters not what bait is used, but for the traditionalist perhaps it's maggots, or a choice between worms in heavy colour and bread when the water is starting to clear, such that it becomes more visible in the water. But there are others trying to survive, and it's not everyone that's happy to share. It's a rare day by a murky winter river that doesn't produce an interesting sighting. Scarcely though ever as exciting as this. and the angling can be equally varied. The angler looks to read the water and in doing so determine where fish might be located. That prolific modern angling writer, the late Tony Miles, suggested that fish will seek an area of normal flow among the chaos of a flooded water, and what wise advice indeed. Such features can be almost imperceptible, but usually occur where faster flow meets slack, in what Mr. Miles called the crease. The flow is turbulent within 2 to 3 metres of the near bank, where submerged features send tumbling swirls to the never still surface. Fish don't appreciate this tiresome irritation, but beyond that, where suds of a shallow gravel run somewhere upstream gently twist, turn and collide like floating dodgems, the smooth freedom of unfettered flow meets the outer edge of the troubled waters inside, and it is here that fish lie in wait. Millions of years of evolution refining the instincts to find this location at such times, the food delivered straight to their table. It's very much the not knowing, the mystery, the adrenaline-stimulating bite, from who knows what or when, that makes angling so engaging in such conditions. In summer, it may only be a perch tempted by a worm. In winter, it could be anything from a gudgeon to a pike. Fishing against the odds is surely a very traditional pursuit in these times of instant gratification in whirlwind lives. Conditions can be adverse and addictive, but as the great golfer Gary Player once said, "Sure, I'm lucky, and you know what? The more I practice, the luckier I get." Success, consistent success, doesn't come without effort and commitment to the cause. There's nothing new here. Chopping a worm in half and impaling the flavoursome cut ends, pushing a hook through some tinned meat and trapping a snippet of dry grass in the bend are age-old techniques as relevant and successful today as they ever were. And better still, neither have XYZ Bait Company stamped on the side. Angling in the naturalised rural environment surely does not suit the emblazonment of company logos. The Warwickshire Avon in winter can be an obliging adversary, but this year it has been trickier than ever. Even so, the odd spear or arrow of outrageous fortune, well, we are in Shakespeare country, could occur, often early or late in the day, a perhaps increasing truth in these predator-ravaged times. Speaking of fortune, 10 minutes in, the first view of the flank of a leviathan. Anything is possible in winter. A powerful surging run stripping line off a clutch in need of servicing, just a few days before the season ends. The fight of 15 minutes or so has left the line wrapped around the shoulders of the fish, as it's drawn to the net by a rod describing a fearful curve. Don't come off now! Into what ordinarily might seem a cavernous net the quarry slides, spent and at the mercy of its captor, the net all of a sudden seemingly barely adequate. A fish so colossal, so magnificent, so surreal as to be impossible. Here in the hand, a lifetime condensed into a moment. Anything